Okay, thank you, Mohsin, and good morning, everyone. I'm very delighted to welcome all the panelists and all the attendees. Today, we have an overwhelming response for the first webinar of Laser World of Photonics. We have over 280 attendees, and that's a very good number. My name is Tanmay Paul. I'm the Group Project Director at Messe München, India. Messe München, India organizes over 20 leading trade fairs in India, and Laser World of Photonics is one of the important trade fairs in our portfolio. It is India's only trade fair for the laser and photonics community. It offers a platform to bring together the key stakeholders from the laser industry, research and science. It brings all the thought leaders, innovators, academia, all across the globe, commerce and networking opportunities. Well, I believe that some of you must be already aware about the Laser World of Photonics trade fair and also have visited the show. But for those who have not visited the trade fair, let me take you through a 2-minute video of the trade fair. So, Mohsin, can you just play a short video?
It seems there is no audio.
Very intelligent. It can help me to explore more about the optical components or device or the machines in the laser world.
Thank you, Mohsin. And I think there was some technical problem. Because of that, we could not hear the audio, and the video was also not properly streamlined. But I'm sure you must have got some idea about the trade fair. Thank you once again for joining in. And I see that the number of participants has almost reached 400, and which is very exciting for everybody. So coming back to our today's topic, the coronavirus outbreak has brought the world to almost a standstill, as we know. As we continue to fight the situation, businesses have become aware of the profound long-term impact this will have on the global economy. Organizations across industries are going to be faced with the task of steering their businesses out of a never before an incredibly complex situation. And as a platform to support discussion and share ideas on the choices available, our normal life resumes. Message Function India is organizing a series of webinars on the pandemic's impact on various segments, which are covered by our trade fairs. Today, we will be discussing on the challenges and opportunities for laser applications in diverse industry segments. And I'm very happy to, on behalf of Laser World of Photonics India, I'm very happy to extend a warm welcome to all the attendees. And I'm very happy to introduce our panelists, stalwarts from the industry who almost need no introduction. We have Dr. Lalit Kumar, President of Laser India Association and founder of Laser Science. Dr. Lalit Kumar, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
We have Professor Devbrata Goswami, IIT Kanpur. He'll be sharing his academic perspective. Good afternoon, Professor Goswami.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Maulik Patel, he's the Executive Director of Sahajanand Group, one of the leading laser system manufacturers in the country. Hello, Maulik.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Mr. Sudhir Gurtu, he's the Managing Director of Leadtech India, who will give us an automotive manufacturer's perspective in this discussion. Welcome, Mr. Gurtu.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Umakant Rapol, Associate Professor from Department of Physics, IISER, Pune. Good afternoon, Dr. Rapol.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Mr. Goshal Shah, he's the Director of Suresh Hindu Lasers, another prominent laser system manufacturer. Good afternoon, Dr. Shah.
Good afternoon.
Our moderator today is learned Dr. Lalit Mohan Kukreja, a scientist, educationist, and a motivational speaker. Having served 40 years at Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, where he was head of Laser Material Processing Division, he is currently founder president of EPI Knowledge Foundation, Mumbai, and Professor Emeritus at Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. Welcome, Dr. Kukreja.
Thank you.
The discussion today is being recorded and will be shared via YouTube soon after the session is over. And before I hand it over to Dr. Kukreja, I have a request to all the attendees. If you have any questions, kindly post it in the Q&A section and not in the chat. With this, I hand it over to you, Dr. Kukreja.
Okay, Tanmay, thank you very much for your kind words. And I extend our warm welcome to all our viewers. I hope you will enjoy interacting with us and we will learn a lot together. As you know, we are passing through very difficult times. COVID-19 has spread very rapidly all over the world and subjected us to very unprecedented kind of adversities and challenges. You know that practically 2/3 of the world is in lockdown and economy is not in slowdown or recession, it is almost paralyzed. So in these difficult times, a basic question comes to our mind that now what we have to do. This is a new way of living in a world which is suddenly very different. We cannot move around freely. We have to protect ourselves through social distancing or also through personal protective gears. And at the same time, we have to learn our livelihood. We have to advance our economy. Without economy, the life cannot be sustained. So this is a huge problem for the entire humanity we are confronted with. So the point is that with these two issues of protecting lives and also advancing the economies, how should we enter into this new world? We have to learn new ways of living in this world. So one of the things that we are discussing today is how our economy will get back on track when possible, while keeping ourselves well protected, and how our masses in different economic strata, starting from the poverty-stricken people, the middle class, and of course, the higher stratum of the society, how we will interact with each other, because after all, economies and commerce, these are social platforms. We can't do it in isolation. We have to go to marketplaces, we have to sell, we have to generate more knowledge also to advance our technological and scientific products. And therefore, it is very timely and very topical to discuss that how our industry will be poised with this new situation in the wake of COVID-19. Now, when we talk of industries, one of the industries which is one of the fastest growing in the world in India is the laser industry. Of course, our experts will tell you more about laser applications and lasers. And laser application industry also we will learn through these stalwarts of different industries which we have on our panel today. And at the same time, we also have some academicians who will tell that what kind of research and development scenarios are emerging in the wake of COVID-19, and what should we do so that laser industry and laser application industry progresses well in India. So it's a very specific domain of Indian industries. And in this domain, we will talk about how laser affects the other domains of the industry, how it will be affected, what are the challenges ahead and how we will tackle those, and what are the opportunities. Adversities also create opportunities. So these experts, these wonderful experts, will also tell you what are the opportunities in laser industry. Many of the students who are watching this program would like to know their job opportunities in laser industry. So in this new world, which is in the wake of COVID-19, how these opportunities and how these challenges will take shape, this wonderful panel will tell you. So to begin with, I go to Dr. Lalit Kumar, who is the president of the Laser Industry Association of India. It's a body which represents, all the laser industry in under one umbrella. And Dr. Lalit Kumar is also founder and CEO of Laser Science, which is one of the well-known laser suppliers, and not only suppliers, but they have also started manufacturing and providing end-to-end solutions of many laser-related problems in R&D specifically, and they have served the country for many, many decades in the past. So Lalit Kumar, I would first invite you to tell us that how the laser industry will actually be affected in the wake of COVID-19.
Thank you, Team MMI, and thank you, Dr. Kukreja, to invite me for this panel discussion. The topic which I have been assigned today is impact of COVID-19 on lasers and photonics industry in India. I will go a little bit on the COVID-19. COVID-19, as all of you know, World Health Organization has declared it as the worst ever crisis after World War. COVID-19 has taken a large toll so far all across the globe, The total number of affected people by COVID-19 is 2.7 million already, as I saw today morning. And the number of deaths which have occurred across the globe is 1.9 lakhs. This number is increasing every day. And there is an increase. So far, I don't see any downfall. So increase which I see every day is about 70 to 75 new patients are adding, and about 6,000 plus deaths are occurring every day. This is very alarming. I do not know what will be the end for this, because this is an ongoing phenomena at present, and I don't see downfall in all those countries which are suffering heavily because of COVID-19. Now, when I come to leisure industry, I should look what is happening across the globe. See, the world economy has been declared by IMF that the world economy will be down by 3% in the year 2020. And our own Confederation of Industry, Indian Industry, has declared that the GDP growth in India in the year 2020 will be in between 0 to 0.9%. And this may continue one more year as well. So overall, you can see that it will have a very heavy impact on our industry as well. Now, when we come to leisure industry is a dependent industry. We are a feeder industry. We are not having a direct product for the consumers. So we depend heavily on the industries which are delivering the end product to consumers. Our customer base industries are automotive industry, we have gem and jewelry industry, infrastructural industry, aerospace and defense, medical device manufacturing, and scientific research and development. So these are the areas where we supply our lasers and laser-based instruments and systems. And then the performance of our industry is obviously depending on this. Now, if I see into the past years, the worldwide growth of leisure industry has been about 9 to 11%. Whereas in India, we have seen a much bigger growth. The growth of leisure industry in India in the past years has been 15 to 17%. Now that was under the scenario when India was growing at the rate of 5 to 7% and the world was growing at the rate of about 2 to 3%. Now in this new scenario, what will be happening to this industry? So let me touch base a little bit on every industry. I will come to automotive industry first. Automotive industry, if you see the figures of last year, that is 2019, already has seen quite a substantial downfall. And with the effect, leisure industry has also suffered in this year. Now in the year 2020 and next another year, that means from 12 to 24 months from now, I can see that the automotive industry will be going down. The reason for that is, in the current crisis situation, the common man's pocket will still be weaker and the sales of the vehicles will be going down in next 12 months and maybe even next 24 months. However, when I was talking to one of my friends recently, he gave me some silver lining into this industry. He said, Lalit Kumar, see, the social distancing is a norm of the future for next 20 months at least. And this will force many, many consumers to consider buying their own vehicles rather than traveling in the public transport. I wish it happens. It can be really a good thing for all of us if automotive industry can see an upsurge. Leisure industry definitely will also see an upsurge into the automotive industry. Gem and jewelry industry. This is one industry which is a luxury industry. And gem and jewelry demand will be going down in the next 12 to 24 months during the COVID-19 era. So this is an industry where I have little hope. And the market will definitely be down for us in this industry. Infrastructure industry, however, it looks very robust because the government of India invests a lot of money on the infrastructure. And also now, the lasers are used widely by the construction companies for cutting and welding. So this is one area where I am seeing an upward trend in the coming months and the years. So this can be our opportunity. Aerospace and defense can be another opportunity, because whatever happens, I think government of India will not be curtailing funds to aerospace and defense industry. So this is an industry where we see that there are some good hopes. Medical device manufacturing can be a fantastic industry for the future, at least for next 12 to 24 months. A lot of device manufacturing will take place, and particularly in COVID-19 era, there will be newer and newer devices which will be needed to be manufactured. Whether it can be PPE, whether it can be some sanitization, towers, devices. I believe this medical device manufacturing industry will definitely be having a upsurge, and we can have our hope there. Now I'll come to, of course, for the industry, we have other panelists who are the experts. So Dhir is expert in automotive industry, so he will definitely give an insight. And Sanjay and Maulik are the expert of overall industrial segment. So they will be talking much more in detail. I would like to talk a little bit more on the scientific research and development. Scientific research and development is a market which is heavily dependent on government funding. So in India, unfortunately, the industrial funding is very less. And even if it is there for last few years, it is still in the range of 5 to 10%. So under the situation when COVID-19 is not going to go away next 12 or 24 months, and majority of the funding from government of India will be utilized to either control the COVID-19 or to feed our poor people, the funding for research and development is going to be heavily curtailed. I also talked to some of my friends in the scientific community, and they already informed me that their institutes have got already notification that funding is going to be reduced in some places by 15%, in other places maybe even deeper. And there may be some institutes who are doing like just fundamental research, the funding may be curtailed completely. This is a really alarming situation for scientific industry. Typically, laser industry is feeding for the scientific research in the area of spectroscopy, plasma physics, atomic and molecular physics, biology, film depositioning, and imaging. Out of this, there are several areas, particularly biology, which will be flourishing in the coming months and years. So we can see a lot of upsurge into this area. But the traditional spectroscopy or atomic and molecular physics area may be seeing a much less funding. But always there are some opportunities in scientific industry. In view of COVID-19, I think many new research areas will emerge, where the scientists can start working and already may have started working and will get more and more funding into these areas. Some of the area which I understand will be like vaccine development, aqueous protein characterization, maybe area like process analytical technology and quality control and drug development. I am sure that Professor Devu Goswami will throw more light on this, and Dr. Rapol will also cover a major part of industry scientific collaboration. So I will leave it to them for details. But I will see that this is my expectation that in new areas like these, there will be a lot of new funding, and laser industry can hope to substantiate their business into these areas.
Okay, Lalit. We will maybe come back to you later. And Mohsin, can you please project the poll question of
Yes, please.
Lalit?
Yes. Here we go.
So audience can see this poll question and answer. And in next 30 seconds, we will collect all the answers from the viewers and tell you our results. So the question is, can COVID-19 create more opportunities for laser-based research? You have to select either yes or no, and then our graphic will show that how many percentage of the viewers are of the view that they think it is yes, and how many percentage is for no.
So I'll close in 10 seconds.
Yes, please.
Yes. So here we close the results.
Yes. And can you please display?
I'll just share the results. Yes.
Yeah.
The results on the screen,
So,
please.
83% of the viewers feel that COVID-19 will create more opportunities. This is wonderful. People are very hopeful that despite, this is like a blessing in disguise. Of course, despite so many severe problems to people's life and to economies, after that there is a silver ending of a tunnel, and people think that this will actually be good for the laser-based research. All right, thank you very much, Mohsin. You can please remove this. And now I go to Professor Goswami from IIT Kanpur, and he will tell us about what are the imaging and screening based techniques where lasers play a major role, and how these techniques are going to take shape post COVID-19. Professor Devabrat Goswami, please.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we have set up this discussion panel, and thank you, Dr. Lalit Kukreja, for bringing me into this wonderful discussion panel. And obviously, Mission Engine did a great job in having this all together. And wonderful that Dr. Lalit Kumar was able to give an overview from both sides, both the silver lining side as well as the realistic side of how we are getting impacted as a result of this pandemic. There is no saying that it is a hard time, and I was very impressed to see the poll result, which basically shows that the positiveness still is out there, and that is the hope which will carry forward us through this bad period, and it's only hope which finally makes us go through this kind of situations. So with that, let me actually get into the real aspect of this particular scenario which has placed us in front. Obviously, laser spectroscopy in terms of bioimaging and allied areas are going to be extremely important
like
in this
screening,
area.
for example.
Sure. And for example, Japanese researchers as well as the researchers from MIT has shown by using high-speed imaging how the overall idea which was posed that the COVID-19 actually travels through the aerosol droplets which are created, and the virus is embedded in there, how far it travels. So they were able to use high-speed imaging cameras and their feeds to analyze, to be able to tell that the initial idea that it only travels a very short distance is not quite true. Through their images and their studies, they have been able to show that it's much more dangerous than that, and that's why perhaps we are seeing the effect of the spread in this larger way. And so there are YouTube videos also which shows how these wonderful high-speed imaging cameras, which are laser-based, which were able to come up with these results, essentially showing that, whatever this difficult timing places us in, still requires laser imaging techniques to go forward and talk anything about it. Similarly, the entire area of trying to know how to combat this concept and trying to get to the bottom line of how to understand this problem that the virus is posing us requires a lot of study which requires lasers. So for example, the idea of how this virus is looking, or how this virus, these pictures that you see are essentially a result of super resolution images, thanks to the Nobel Prize some years ago, which gave rise to this area, once again is 100% based on laser imaging technique. And so this is the principle which would require lasers to part and play a major part in sort of coming up with this present idea of how to know the principle behind the spread of this virus and its impact, and how it is affecting all of us. So this way, the techniques that are out there are being fully utilized, both academically as well as in applied sciences, to come to realize how people can do research in this area. There are companies now which are very effectively producing bioresearch devices which are 100% laser based, and they have been over the recent years being available even to the doctors and the medical community, who are applying them to try to find out how disease spreading and their difficulties can be looked at. So in these regards, it's very, very important that we have to know that laser spectroscopy and these areas are not going to go away. In fact, they are perhaps going to impact a lot more than what we currently have been doing to go forward towards high resolution microscopy and their impact. The other important area which lasers play a very important role in cases where we still don't know how to come up with a medical, say, medicine for it, is to use photodiagnostic therapy, in which the lasers are by themselves used as one of the devices or effects which can cure or sort of destroy the the difficult point. So this has been utilized very effectively for cancer research, but we don't know yet what this particular virus is posing the difficulty with us here. So we cannot certainly say that that will become an area, but there are many explorations which will be an issue which will come up.
Yeah. Okay, Professor Goswami. So you see a lot of scope in R&D using lasers, which would not only be, very much used for the diagnosis of the disease, or maybe also even therapeutics. Now, one thing that comes to mind is that due to COVID-19, maybe the research funding goes down. So can you quickly tell us that if the funding goes down, how the research will suffer and what is the solution, in very quick, maybe 2 or 3 words?
Well, yeah, so funding reduction is a very important point. That requires innovation to come in a big way. One of the places where, at least in India, the connection has been often missed is that the industry and the academia have not really worked together in coming up to solve problems. I mean, at the end of the day, if industry and academia are sitting down, perhaps for something, it is to develop a product. But here, actually, it's a little bit different in that. It's not just developing a product, it's actually finding a solution. And for example, if we want to combat, let's say, the pandemic, so we would like to come up with a way to screen, to make sure that office space for everybody is secured, so that come tomorrow somebody wants to come back to the lab to work, they don't feel endangered because of this pandemic. How do we do that? So here, believing that there will be say the government funding alone to support this is not going to happen, because the industry itself are interested in having their products out there which will be helping that. Right. So in some ways they are working together in academia to make sure that this solution can come to is an area which has never been explored, and maybe this is the time where this can become an important issue.
Right. So you think industry and academia must come together, collaborate. Industry should spend money on academia, and academia should return them in the form of solutions or know-how. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you maybe later. Now I switch over to very young, entrepreneur, Mr. Maulik Patel. He's the executive director of SLTL Group, one of the biggest laser producers in India and laser-based manufacturing systems. So Maulik, from you, I would like to know that what would be the effect of COVID-19 on laser production industry, and what are the challenges and what are the opportunities ahead?
Sure, sir. Let me just try to do the slide if it works.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Maulik, when we are trying for the slide, maybe I can go back to Mohsin and ask for a poll question in the meantime.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have the poll up here.
Yeah. So this poll question is for our viewers. And the question is, do you believe laser equipment will grow in academic sector, that is research, over the next few years as a result of the present crisis? And you have to select either yes or no. So over to viewers, and the poll starts now for next 10 seconds.
We'll close in 5 seconds.
Good. Okay. So what is the outcome, Mohsin?
Here is the outcome.
Yeah, again, very hopeful people, and this is wonderful. Very nice to see that 75% of our viewers feel and believe that laser equipment will grow in academic sector, that is in research, in our laboratories, maybe national laboratories, maybe university funded by private players or by state governments, and only 25% feel no, that is not going to be the case. Okay, so coming back to Maulik, I think his slide is working well. So Maulik, please take over.
Yeah. So before going to future, let me just go to past. Okay, let me just give you a past analysis. As India, there was a subtle rise of middle class in India. The new government initiatives for ease of doing business, which was trying to attract the global manufacturing hub. Reforms in foreign direct investments were happening. GDP growth plans were to $5 trillion economy. Right, we would expect to grow in almost all the sectors. And of course, there was a big initiative which was done for making in India, which was on the rise. This initiative was going to help the entire ecosystem from small, large companies or mid-sized companies. India was definitely expecting to grow with GDP more than 8 to 9%. As Lalit sir also said that, yes, it is going to have some challenges in future coming days. But, laser being a fundamental product, which has a variety of applications which are on the rise. For all the industries, infrastructure projects, medical device, pharmaceutical, space and defense. Of course, there were applications in gems and jewelry, renewable energy, solar, agriculture. And, then came this COVID-19 situation, which has locked down us into our homes and shattered our dreams. I'm sure many are thinking the same, that, this is going to be the situation. But, when I was talking to my teammates in my company, we also did a webinar. I told them this is the new normal. We have to accept the new normal, And also, I would like to, there are going to be some hurdles and challenges. But as Dr. Kukreja also said, that every challenges will bring a different and new opportunity. And there will be definitely a lot of new opportunity. Of course, with some changes, we need to accept the new normal and modify our lives accordingly. So, I've just tried to summarize few aspects where laser industry is maximum utilized when it comes to Indian sector. Automotive auto component, of course, we have some good experts which are going to convey on that. Electronics is not a big industry in India, but gems and jewelry is a very big industry in India. Of course, the sentiments towards that will be, it will take some time to revive that industry. It's my personal opinion. And of course, electrical and textile machinery might have a good say, reasonable. But yes, none other than agriculture, medical device and pharmaceutical, space and defense, as Dr. Lalit also said, renewable energy and infrastructure. Our government had huge plans, very good plans to revive this industry. And for sure, this is not a recession. I think it's just a lockdown. And we have to accept certain new norms, and we have to go through it. And, what are the opportunities, and how India as a country, or we as a manufacturer, there are a lot of consumers as well, and how they can help in terms of making sure that the India comes out of this situation. And there are, on internet, there are a lot of L curve and W curve and V curve which have been shown. So there are definitely some of the other things are going to happen. But yes, there has to be a self reliant. We have to, as a country, need to become self reliant or on our own technology. Of course, there has to be ingenious efforts which has to be made, and we as a company, and there are a couple of other companies which are making sure that there has been indigenous R&D efforts are being made. And of course, academia partnership should be created to make sure that the laser technology, which is reasonably dependent on imports, can be minimized. And as a country, we have to look at a global perspective of making sure that the quality aspect, because there is also one challenge which in our company we say that jo chalta hai wo yahan nahi chalta. So chalta hai kind of stuff, we have to make sure that we think on a global perspective, okay, not just be limited to India alone. And also, like on the consumer front, there has been since 2000 and since couple of years, there has been a big chunk of low cost economical machines which had been coming and getting dumped with a lot of subsidized benefit which are going on in our country, right, which has actually has impacted a lot. But there is also a good hope, and also, like the country itself is accepting a lot of Indian products, right? So there is definitely a good sign that but one aspect is very clear, that as an individual, we have to make sure that it should be India first, and to revive the economy. And all of these, agriculture, medical device, space and defense, there are laser welding, there is laser cladding, hardening, of course sheet metal fiber laser cutting, laser marking, engraving, all of these applications are well available in India. And I don't see that it is going to go in a downward trend. Of course, after lockdown, it is going to have some time. We need to have a faith on making sure that the government will have some stimulus funds, and we have to make sure that if the government is pushing some stimulus fund, then how we are utilizing this stimulus fund.
Yeah, Maulik. So I would like to ask you something here. You said government stimulus funds. But besides funds, what else would you expect from the government so that the laser industry in India gets support and gets a path ahead, so that in the wake of these opportunities created, how our industries can do better than others in the world? What are your expectations from the government?
Sure, from the government, like see, we are a democratic government, and there are other parts of the world. There's a communist government. So of course there are challenges, but yes, when it comes to if there are a couple of industries which needs to be revived, and there has to be some support from government in terms of I won't say directly in terms of subsidy, but yes, in terms of some tax benefit or even directly subsidy, can help. Also, in terms of making sure that the industry and academic, can collaborate, because there has been a lot of research which has happened in a lot of our labs, which many a times are unutilized, or are going in shelf, can be utilized. So some kind of a some consensus has to be created, some nexus has to be created to make sure that,
So the walls between the academics and the industry should crumble, and they should be able to see each other in a very transparent manner and
Yes.
exchange know-how. So
Yeah.
that's a wonderful concept. And also, if you would like foreign players to come to India for manufacturing, so what kind of expectations are from the government for in terms of ease of business, etc.?
Yeah. So, of course, because Make in India was actually created to make sure that, there is a good foreign direct investment which happens in our country. And I'm sure that because of this COVID situation, I think, a lot of countries have realized that, there should not be too much dependency on a particular country, right? And they have to go to, there are many other countries in the world. And I'm sure, as a government, will be taking good steps. But yes, if some foreign company wants to, work and collaborate with Indian company, yes, as a company, we are very open. And I'm sure there are a couple of other companies which are also, opening their arms to make sure that, we can join hands and, what to say, serve to the world, not just to India alone.
Yeah, okay. This is wonderful. So we'll come back to you and
Dr.
may I
Kukreja?
go to, yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we are running a little late.
Yeah,
will
sure.
have to take.
So I'm going to Mohsin to
Yes, please.
flash the poll.
Yes. Here we go, Dr. Kukreja.
So here the question for the viewers is, what is the reason for Indian customers preferring to buy Chinese machines? What is the reason? So we have three options: that China offers better quality machines, China offers low cost machines, Indian customers have trust in Chinese machines. So viewers, please select one out of these three options and let us see how the viewership is divided on these three aspects.
Yeah,
Poll
we
starts now.
close in 10 seconds.
Right, please.
Here we go.
Okay.
The results
what
are
the
up.
results? Yeah, so it is what was expected, that the only factor which our viewers feel is low cost. So our industry has to see this in a very, very positive manner and in a very thoughtful manner, that cost is something for which we have to compete. Okay, neither they make better quality nor that people have trust in Chinese machines, but it is the cost. So we'll get back to this point later on. And now I go to our next speaker, Mr. Sudhir Gurtu, who is the managing director of a company which provides technical solution to other companies, that is LEADEC India. Sudhir, welcome to you. And I would request you to tell us that how laser industry and automotive industry can marry each other for the synergy, and what future do you see for applications of lasers in automotive industry? Sudhir.
Thank you, Dr. Kukreja, and good to be here, chatting with a large group. I believe it's 500 and more could not enter because of the limit.
Yes.
So glad to see you all. Yes, you're right. Auto industry, I think even the other Lalit, Dr. Lalit again mentioned, is struggling today. And it was anyway the issues with the Euro 6 norms, which hit us on April 1st. And now with COVID and also the electric vehicle question marks, the battery quality issues, I guess the future is not as bright as anyone would like to see for next few months for auto industry, maybe more than few months. Having said that, yes, how to marry the laser and the automotive is very interesting, because first is the automotive has to come back on its feet, which means the next few months there will be a lot of issues in automotive itself. As we work in many automotive and been in automotive for long, I can share the first challenge will be the capacity and line balancing within the plant. And for many of you also, this challenge will come up where you have a little larger plants. because here you have a conveyor belt with maybe 30-40% staffing on May 4th. You have to rebalance the whole line, social distancing apart. There's a work content assigned and there's typically 30 seconds, 60 seconds or 120 seconds cycle time per station. That's it. So everything will change and it will be a nightmare. Costs will jump up crazily per car, assembling the car. Same in paint shop, body shop, press shop, machine shop. Same issues will be a big struggle. Line balancing, capacity planning, production planning, manpower resourcing. Other issue is skilled labor is still not easily available. Many have gone home. So here you have a press shop where you had to have the skilled PLC guy, but he's stuck in some red confined zone, maybe in Bihar. So I mean, it can block your whole plant someday. Some one critical resource missing. This is another challenge for auto coming up. Next one, of course, is supply chain issues. So like the press shop guy missing, could happen down in tier 1 or even tier 2, tier 3. I wanted this packaging material to ship this carton, but the guy who gave the carton is stuck in red confined zone. Or maybe the guy who makes print for the carton, to print the carton on top, the labeling. Ink is not made, so he's short of ink. The chain up the stream is killed. That's a big challenge today for a restart. And besides that, we have also issues of missing skills or customer supply requirements, because customers are no more, I mean, they're conserving cash. So everyone will say, hey, why should I buy this? Could be Mercedes or could be a Maruti. Let me wait for 6 months. Another guy will say, oh, let me wait 6 months because the technology is changing. The EV car, electric vehicles are coming. Better batteries are coming. Why should I waste money on a diesel, petrol, even if it's Bharat 6 Euro norms? So these are the big challenges ahead for us. And one last challenge I believe will be the sanitization and the social distancing kind of challenge. And in fact, I had a huge presentation for EPC guys. If you allow me, I'll just show 2 or 3 slides out of it quickly. So let me first share the screen. I hope you can see my screen. So I'll jump to maybe slide 5 first. Yeah. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So these are some of the challenges you must also look at before you start your small plant as well or big plant. Just quickly, I'll go through. Okay. You must confirm with the emails or calls with your guys who are about to report, including their health status. They're not in quarantine zones. Before you start, do that. Now's the best time. Fumigate, pest control for the whole plant. Don't just look at COVID. There could be a cockroach or a mouse or a rodent issue while you are away for 6 weeks. So do that as well. Of course, sanitization world is changing. So please ensure masks and disinfectants and toilet cleaning every few hours and all the rest, which of course you know. Then stock up with the PPEs, masks and disinfectants as well. Try to build up a COVID response team for your, even if it's a small plant. If you have one COVID case in the plant, they'll try to quarantine your plant. Plus you have to tackle the whole situation very differently, which you or me have never done.
Yeah.
So make a response team which will act continuously, monitor the whole sanitization as well.
Right.
Also define a small quarantine zone and watch out for your maintenance of equipment before you start.
This is very interesting, Sudhir.
You know, I wish I could have shared more, but let me just two minutes.
Yeah, because we are running out of time. I'm sorry for that. So maybe you can.
So this again, response team. You could have manage people from your functional, like HR, your operation, one director, and they'll be monitoring the whole situation, including audits, the stock checking, and reporting back to suppliers and customers.
Yeah.
And one very last slide is.
Oh, this
is for the production zone. Yeah, for the production zone, what you could do, again, Dr. Saab, we can have another call if your plant guy is interested.
Sure.
For the production zone, do watch out your, as I said, line balancing for sure. your sanitization issues for sure. But even ask guys to change the uniform every day, wash it, shoes, keep them out. Try not to use centralized AC systems. Have a first aid and COVID systems around you to isolate.
Yeah.
Plus, just have the response team around.
Yeah.
So I'm sure lots can be done. But again, the last one which you said, laser. Laser, as you rightly saw, people response. China is able to get low-cost laser systems. So a lot of automotive industry too ends up buying outside of India, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And that needs to change. So we need to find a way to go low-cost equipment making. If they can do, why can't we?
Why can't
Second, please look at new applications. My request to all laser experts out here.
Sure.
There are lots of applications waiting to be picked up. You have got us brazing, you have laser brazing, welding, marking. In my time, it used to be turret punching. Right? So it's good, but there are lots more. Look at EV cars, battery, fiber panels.
Yes.
Please act fast and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you. In that case of time, I'll stop.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that since we are running out of time, we couldn't see everything, although it's very, very interesting and very enlightening, in fact. So, but I quickly go to our next panelist, Dr. Umakant Rapol, who is the Associate Professor at Department of Physics at Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research in Pune. So, Umakant, what do you think, R&D organization in a university setup and the industry could collaborate in a synergetic way? What are those areas? Can you quickly tell us those areas?
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'll probably try to be very brief.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So laser industry, like any other industry which develops complete systems, it needs a full ecosystem of small and medium scale industries that would have to probably develop small modules whose these modules application spaces would range from any general purpose to very niche areas. So this basically includes a variety of subsystems, I think, whose knowledge does exist in the country. And as you know, many of the centrally funded technical research institutes like IITs, ICERs, NITs, IISc, and universities have huge talent pool of scientists and researchers and engineers who have been working in diverse technological areas, as well as quite a few of them also do fundamental research in various areas, including use of lasers and also developing small optical systems for their own research purposes. I think all these people have to be attracted into helping out the local industry through serious collaborations in developing some of the niche and unique devices that will be very essential for production of, say, in this case, laser systems. And I think, talking about cost and, talking about this cutting of research funding for fundamental research, I hope it doesn't happen, but in case it does happen, I think it's a big opportunity for most researchers, experimental researchers at least, and a few theoretical researchers to jump into this. And also, I would say that industry now should also open up to the idea that it's not just about manufacturing a product whose technology exists somewhere, just copy it here, make them in mass, do a mass production and start making profits. I think they have to also start putting in a serious percentage of their profits into research and development of.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, they should put a good fraction of their money in research and development, and a good fraction of that amount, that money that they put aside for R&D should be put for collaborating with academic research. And I have a few points which we should be probably looking at when we talk about getting in academics and industrialists. I think at every city, at a level of every big city which has a good industrial base, for example, Pune and some other city or Bangalore, they have a good cluster of industries and also educational institutes, research institutes. They should form a small cluster of engineers and researchers and academics who kind of talk to each other on, not so frequently, but every couple of months have a meeting and talk about, just bounce up, have a small lunch or dinner meeting and talk about what's going on, what challenges exists. This is one point. The other point is one can have an exchange of personnel between industries and institutes, which does exist at some point, but then it has to be more formalized in terms of sending people either ways, from industry to institutes and from institutes to industries. Have a model for joint development of systems or devices, for example, where one doesn't really know exactly how to do, or one doesn't really know how to procure a particular thing. Say, for example, if I'm making a system right now and I want a flow sensor, I go online and want to buy something, and then everywhere you see that they're out of stock, for example, in this current scenario. Now, such a situation, you can assume that that's going to be the normal in the future, and you don't want to wait and go place an order and buy things. You just go to neighboring institutes or people whom you have been talking to and say, hey, look here, I have this problem. Let's do a joint development and give a timeline of a month or a year or a few years, depending on the seriousness of the technical issue, and then put some money, both of them together, and develop these devices. I think that kind of a model has to come in. And as Lalit Kumar pointed out, that some of the experimental areas, probably, in the future, not future, but near future, some of the areas like AMO physics or fundamental physics researchers, especially experimental researchers, maybe the funding may go down, it may not. But in case it goes down, it's a good opportunity for these researchers to actually use their skills that they have developed, and the skills, or also the manpower that they have developed over decades. Some of them should divert that knowledge into developing and supporting industry, and it could be laser industry, for example.
Yeah, Umakant. If money goes down, I think our brain power should come up. I'm sorry for interrupting you, because we are really
more or less
running out of
major players are they're not selling cheap. So cheap is not a solution. We have to make good technology.
Yes.
We have to give people fast production machine, good support, good service. This will definitely make our country and our industry more powerful. Yes, there is a big threat from China for low cost equipments, but people buy IPG laser also, or Rofin laser also, and people buy Chinese laser also. The market is even right now. It's not totally inclined towards China. We still have hopes. Also, I would like to stress for governments, as I told you that there's a list of exemption which is given to the laser manufacturers that can be changed. I can also say that they can provide a capital subsidy for laser industry up to 20%, which is also given to electronic industries. Also, property tax could be eliminated for this industry by state governments. Also, I think there should be a single window for collaboration opportunity between research organizations and universities and IITs.
Yeah. Thank you, Goshal. This is
the connection is not there. So
now it's restored.
Yeah.
Maybe you can conclude.
Conclusively, I'll say that of course we should continue investment in our own research.
Okay.
We should collaborate more with government organization. And I want to make specific points for research organizations.
Yes.
If they invest in manufacturing or developing laser diodes, laser chips, or specialty fibers for like ytterbium fibers, I think that will help the industry more, because these technologies require a lot of money, which an industry cannot provide.
Right. And being one of the largest manufacturers of laser in our country, would you be interested in research funding in university laboratories or university which are private or even owned by central government?
Absolutely, yes. We are.
That is very, very heartening.
Looking forward, we are looking for. Actually, it's a help for us.
Fantastic.
Many technologies we need.
Yeah. And just last question, because a lot of students are our viewers.
Yeah.
What are the job opportunities of young Indian students who are coming out of engineering colleges in the laser industry in India? Very quickly, can you?
Yeah, they can look for opportunities in embedded systems. They're not nothing big or great, but for the laser technology or laser machines, nobody is developing systems or programs for embedded systems.
So if there are a lot of startups in the field of laser, is there a market, global market, which can absorb all their products, and these startups can be profit making in a very short term? Yeah.
So I think
so there is a huge industrial requirement of laser components, laser systems, laser themselves. So it's a very, 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 very positive scenario which you have projected. Thank you very much. Now let me ask the administration. Already we are at 1:38. So do we have time for some questions? Because we have some 50 questions from our viewers, and I was seeing some of these questions, wonderful questions. I mean, our viewers are brilliant, and the kind of questions they asked are not only overwhelming in terms of number, but also in terms of the depth of information that they have asked for, or intellectual level of these questions. How many questions we can
Sir,
take?
I think, this is Samir.
Yes,
so what we'll do is we have a couple of poll questions remaining. Maybe Mohsin can run those first.
See, if we
After
run
that,
the poll questions,
sir, I think we'll have to skip the poll questions now.
I think so, because these questions from the viewers are very, very interesting, very brilliant questions.
Okay, you could take a few questions, and then we can keep the
Yeah,
remaining
then we
for
can.
offline.
Yes,
we can keep some for offline, and we can even answer them later with the help of the panel.
Thank you, Samir.
Because it will be impossible to cover all of these. There are so many.
Yeah, 50 questions means we need at least, on their fantastic question, as I told you, we need at least 50 more hours. We don't mind, but I think you will all have limitation of the sitting and time and everything else.
Yes, sir.
But
Please go ahead
two
with the
questions.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
So one question is from Chitrabhanu Nanduri. I don't know, is it Mr. or Miss, irrespective of that. The question is, can a startup focus on developing a laser subsystem in India? And will there be any support from LWP India chapter post COVID-19 lockdown? So this is a question which actually involves many experts. So let me put it to maybe Lalit Kumar. What do you think, Lalit Kumar? Can young fellows, young Indians have laser subsystem production in India, and can Laser World of Photonics or some private forum, government financing involves a lot of paperwork, a lot of formalities. Young fellows, they want quick finances, quick results. Everything should be quick now. So what is the solution to this, Lalit Kumar?
Yes, the laser market in India at present is at a reasonably good size. If it was 10 years back, I would have said that it is going to be difficult. But in the present scenario, when the market is quite substantial, we need such entrepreneurs who can develop subsystems, who can develop a laser component, or even the materials. And industry definitely will be interested to collaborate with them, even to fund them, such entrepreneurs. And this will be a fantastic thing. There is a lot of opportunity for these things in India in the coming months and years.
Very good. Now the next question,
can I just comment very briefly?
Please, yes.
Dr. Goswami. Actually, very quickly, I would like to point out that one of the important aspect which presents right now is the social distancing essentially means that people have to work from remote places or distances, which means that we have to actually increase our bandwidth. Optical communication plays an important role in this. And so any industry thinking in that direction of the IT now converting themselves more into optical areas of high bandwidth product and high bandwidth areas of communication will benefit hugely. And India definitely requires, worldwide it's required, but even for India, this is one of the biggest improvement which is required right now. So technology, academia, or whatever way you want to do it, would become a very important role in this.
Yeah, good. Next question I would pick up is from Kailash Patel. He asks, do you think manufacturing in India will increase, and India has such skilled people in manufacturing high quality machines? Maulik, can you answer this question?
Sure, definitely. India has skills, as I said, zero effect, zero defect. Of course, as a company and as a country, we have to build a mindset. First is India first. And of course, when you talk about quality and the kind of performance, India has definitely capability to make sure that, all the products, whether it's in laser or automation, because, they both go hand in hand, right? Has the capability to, deliver up to the world-class standard. It has definitely standard.
Okay. Yeah, the next question which I would like to pick up is, any good laser machine for marking on wire and cable available in India? This question is from Vijay Kumar Singhi, and I would like to put it for Goshal Shah. Goshal, can you answer this?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultraviolet laser, UV lasers are most popular for wire marking and
wire and cable.
Wire and cable, both.
Okay.
They can mark very well, give a very good contrast for different types of colors in wire cables.
Okay. And similarly, there is Bhagirath Thumar. He wants to know, do you have laser rust remover? Goshal or Maulik?
Yeah, laser rust removal is rust removal is a very new product which is getting a good market share, and it can remove rust, it can remove paints. The many types of lasers are used. Lasers are also used, and also CW lasers are used. But I recommend to use a high energy pulse laser to for this application. It works great.
Yeah, okay, good. So now we have one question from Mohit Gehlot. What are the reasons we can't make low cost laser instruments in India?
So definitely,
who can answer? Maybe
everything comes at a cost. So a consumer gets what he pays for. So of course, you can make low cost.
Maybe what he means to know is that China is manufacturing low cost. Why the cost is higher if we manufacture the same thing?
It's all about the component being used and the bill of material. So let me, of course, their consumer gets what it pay for. So if you ask, even in China or even in US, when they procure a lot of things from China, you look at the quality which they get, but of course the price is high. So it's all about the bill of material which is used in terms of making a machine. And India definitely can make low cost, but by not compromising on the quality. But one aspect which China has an edge because of their Communist Party government is they get highly subsidized. They are highly subsidized. Even if they trade certain things, they get almost like 17 to 19% subsidy. So you get $100 inside your country, you get $19.
Yeah. Okay, good. So one question, maybe this should be the last question, Samir. This is question from Murli Satyala, and he asked, is there any laser source which can detect 1 nanometer particle size? What is the minimum particle size laser source can detect? Maybe I can answer this question to Murli. See, the limitation comes from the wavelength of the laser. Okay. If you have a particle size which is much smaller than the wavelength of the laser, you cannot measure it. okay, because measuring depends on the scattering of light. So the shortest wavelengths which are currently available, I mean, at a reasonable level. In R&D, one can even think of gamma ray laser and X-ray laser, but they are not available to people as of now. They are only of academic interest. What is available to the people is in the ultraviolet region, which means something like 150 nanometer is the wavelength, or lowest you can get maybe of the order of 100 nanometer. Now, if 100 nanometer is the wavelength, you can't detect a particle which is 1 nanometer, but you can certainly detect things like coronavirus, which is something like 300 nanometer. So this is the limitation, and this is the scientific limitation posed by the laser light, and therefore we can detect particles which are of the order of wavelength of the laser. So I think with this questions, there are many more, 71 questions. I'm really sorry, and I think Laser World of Photonics and Messe München must do something for these young brilliant fellows who have asked so many questions. Maybe there should be one more session only to answer these questions. I don't know how we can do it. So I can already see Suzanne on the screen. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Ja, und willkommen nach Indien. Now over to you, Suzanne. Thank you very much. And thank you all the panelists, all the viewers for joining this wonderful webinar. We are all excited to be with you and hope to serve you again in the future. Thank you very much.
One second, I'd just like to say that we had so many questions today and all of them so interesting that we could possibly create in a few days, replies from our expert panel and mail it to those people who are interested. We already have each of the question, the person who has asked the question, we have his email ID, so we could reply.
We can do that.
It's impossible to take 70 questions now.
73 in fact now. So viewers, I hope you have noted it down. We have given you an email in the email. We have given you an email ID in the email which you received from Messe München. I think it is addressed to Mohsin.
Yes.
If I am not wrong.
Yes.
So so you can send your question by email to Mohsin, and Mohsin in turn will send it to us, and one by one we will answer your question, because we love to answer your question. Your questions are like our wealth. Through your questions we learn. When we answer your questions, we learn a lot. So please send your question to Mohsin on the email ID given in the email sent by Messe München, and we will try our best to reply all the questions. And I thank viewers, all the viewers once again. And before I wind up, I'm very delighted that a lot of viewers have shown good hope. And as we say in India, there was a very nice British film called Exotic Fantastic Marigold Hotel. And one statement which was mentioned in that in India, in the end, everything is fine. If the things are not fine, that means it is not yet the end. So with this hope, everything will be fine. We are very sure at the end of lockdown, at the end of COVID-19 pandemic, one day it is definitely going to go. How long it will take, we don't know. Let us pray that it goes sooner the better. And with that hope, I thank all of you and express my bliss of being with you. Thank you very much. Now I think over to Suzanne.
Yes. Hello. Greetings from Messe Munich in Germany. Please let me give a very warm thank you to all our panelists for their valuable contributions, and a big thank you as well to our audience for numerous participation and for putting forward so many interesting questions that will help us surely to drive our show and the laser industry in India to the next level. And hope to see you all again here at the next possible occasion. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We wind up.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.